When the cult classic TV series Twin Peaks aired in 1990, it broke many TV drama conventions, not only for its use of cinematic filming techniques, but also for its narrative. With one critic writing, "Plot is irrelevant, moments are everything," Lynch and Frost have mastered a way to make a weekly series endlessly interesting. The pairing of auteur filmmaker David Lynch and TV veteran Mark Frost resulted in the creation of a series that combines a medley of genres that were presented in a way consistent with postmodernist practices, by fragmenting and splicing together the various conventions within them to create a highly melodramatic presentation of character relationships in combination with various interwoven plot strands. While the most identifiable genres utilized by Lynch and Frost are the detective and soap opera genres, they also borrow from many others, such as film noir, folklore, science fiction, and horror. Going forward, it is important to establish an idea of postmodernism in which to analyze the series, as the lines between the definitions of modernism and postmodernism are often blurred. As described by Peter Barry, both movements use the most fundamental elements of the practice of choice, fragmenting the forms and incorporating chance and randomness. In the case of Twin Peaks, that being the combination of genres and their conventions from film, television, and literature. However, while the tone of modernist work is pessimistic and mournful about the world, postmodernism is more optimistic. Modernism also embraces minimalism and rejects maximalism, whereas postmodernism is the opposite, relishing in excess and gaudiness. Parody and pastiche are common art forms used by postmodernists as they incorporate all these aspects and rely on intertextuality and the utilization of distinctive conventions within the genre or form being parodied to be successful. The primary plotline of the series, Laura Palmer's murder investigation, can be read as a suspense narrative as defined by Stefan Todorov in his essay, The Typology of Detective Fiction. Suspense narratives keep the mystery of the whodunit and also the two stories, that of the past and that of the present, but it refuses to reduce the second to a simple detection of the truth, with the two stories referring to the story of the crime and the story of the investigation. Within these narratives, the investigation is the main plot, with the audience having an equal interest in the past events that led up to the need for an investigation. Throughout the series, the mystery of what really happened to Laura is kept under wraps, with the investigation of her murder conducted by FBI Special Agent Dale Cooper and the Twin Peaks Sheriff's Department, and the investigation into who Laura was prior to her death done by Donna Hayward, Laura's former best friend. The interviews with subjects, discussing and debunking possible theories, visiting locations associated with Laura, and the late nights in the department boardroom with coffee and donuts laid out by Lucy are all part of the investigation to discover who Laura was and what happened to her.
A policeman's dream.
Within these suspense narratives, Todorov also describes how the detective is integrated into the universe of the other characters instead of being an independent observer, either by having their lives endangered in the pursuit of their investigation, falling in love, or becoming a part of the community around them. While Sheriff Harry Truman and Donna are already a part of the universe of the other characters within Twin Peaks, Cooper becomes fully immersed in town life and builds strong relationships with the townsfolk during his time there. One of the most notable relationships is with Audrey Horne. Audrey's character holds many of the connotations associated with the femme fatale character type from film noir, a genre heavily tied to the detective genre. She's attractive and fashionable while also being seductive and repeatedly lying to manipulate those around her to get what she wants. Sherilyn Fenn, who portrays Audrey, also has an old Hollywood glamour look with her strong yet feminine features, adding to the femme fatale feel. Throughout the series, we see Audrey continue to reinforce this femme fatale archetype by portraying herself differently to different people to cause chaos or get what she wants. However, she cannot get the one thing she does want, Agent Cooper. In most traditional detective films, there's often strong sexual tension between the detective and the femme fatale. While Audrey develops a crush on Agent Cooper right after their initial meeting, Cooper upholds his strict codes of ethics and refuses to indulge her, even when she surprises him in his hotel room naked. Nevertheless, Cooper keeps a platonic relationship with Audrey, providing the healthy paternal attention so lacking from her own father. Agent Cooper can be classified as both a classical and procedural detective as defined by Arthur Berger. Cooper is an eccentric character common in classical detectives in both his personality and investigation techniques. Yet he holds himself to a very high professional standard while working and makes sure to use the resources available to him as an FBI detective. Although he does toe the line between conventional and unconventional, he embraces the supernatural phenomena around him and events in his dreams to figure out his next steps. Cooper's Tibetan method To discover the identity of Jay within Laura's diary can be seen as an early example within the series of his eccentric investigation techniques, which is best explained by Cooper himself.
Following a dream I had 3 years ago, I have become deeply moved by the plight of the Tibetan people and filled with a desire to help them. I also awoke from the same dream realizing that I had subconsciously gained knowledge of a deductive technique involving mind-body coordination operating hand in hand with the deepest level of intuition.
However, Cooper does hold on to many of the procedural conventions. He's an indefatigable truth seeker by going to all lengths to solve Laura's murder, by illegally entering Canada to investigate One-Eye Jacks, and continuing to work as a sheriff's deputy within Twin Peaks after his suspension from the FBI. Throughout Cooper's unconventional investigation methods, he has Harry by his side. Harry is a loyal partner and friend to Cooper throughout. The pair work well together, with Cooper's expertise from his career working within the FBI and Harry's knowledge of the town and its residents. He also fills the role of companion to Cooper, even foreshadowing the duo's bond and relationship together.
Sheriff, what are you sitting around for? We got places to go and people to see.
Yeah, I think I'd better start studying medicine.
Oh, why's that?
Because I'm beginning to feel a bit like Dr. Watson.
Donna Hayward also fills the role of detective. Distraught by the tragic loss of her best friend, she begins an investigation of her own. Being a private citizen, Donna, along with Laura's secret boyfriend James Reilly and Madeline Ferguson, Laura's cousin, they are not restricted by the protocol imposed on Cooper at the sheriff's office, and they have more anonymity to freely conduct operations to gain evidence. Donna takes advantage of this by taking over Laura's Meals on Wheels route, and she ends up building a rapport with Harold Smith, working in her favour as Harold has a secret diary that belongs to Laura. Donna also exhibits an eccentric personality, but differently from Cooper. She begins to mirror Laura the further into the investigation she goes. Donna is a simple, innocent teenage girl. However, when she begins to wear Laura's sunglasses, she undergoes a radical image overhaul. This is most evident in her outfit when she goes to visit James in prison. She also changes her personality to try and emulate the more sexually overt femme fatale character type. Yet, Donna's femme fatale differs greatly from Audrey, as it comes across as an over-the-top camp performance. However, this campiness, along with her overly sexual nature towards James, can also be seen to link them both into the soap opera genre. The soap opera genre is one that's perfectly suited to postmodernists, as it lends itself to the excess, gaudiness and bad taste mixture of qualities that are associated with work created in the movement. Classic soap opera characters are exaggerated and ostentatious, which in turn adds to the campiness and weirdness of the narrative. Characters such as Nadine Hurley, Margaret Latterman and Dick Tremaine, to name a few, are prime examples of the soap opera character type. On the surface, Nadine is flamboyantly eccentric, whose life mission is to achieve completely silent curtain runners.
Completely silent.
Her large and melodramatic outbursts at her husband Ed Hurley and others, coupled with her bright red hair and eye patch, add to her oddball appearance. However, while Nadine's character type can be seen as a parody of the extravagant nature of soap operas, it could also be possible that Nadine's overly eccentric outward personality is to cover the deep insecurity and sadness that she feels in knowing that her husband loves Norman Jennings more than her. These highly camp characters with a tragic past highlight the friction between profound emotional turmoil and the bizarrely comic distortion such pain can produce, which is a key element to the soap operatic narrative structure of the series. The over-the-top performances are entertaining and comedic in the moment, but they leave an upsetting and remorseful feeling towards the characters. Soap operas are often dominated by a romantic storyline, forbidden and interesting love stories, with a focus on the interrelationship, intrigue, love and conflict between family members. Arguably, in this regard, the soap opera genre is equally prominent to the narrative of Twin Peaks as a detective genre, as many of the principal characters do have interesting and often forbidden romantic relationships with each other. The relationship between Donna and James is one example, but also between Bobby and Shelley, Harry and Josie, and Gordon Cole's infatuation with Shelley, to name a few. However, the love triangle between Nadine, Ed and Norma is the most dramatic and parodic of the series. Coupled with Nadine's large personality, her husband Ed is one of Twin Peaks' most overtly soapy characters, blandly noble, manfully stoic, tall and ruggedly handsome. The two married on a whim after high school after Norma, Ed's high school sweetheart, ran off with notorious bad boy Hank Jennings. When Ed found out that Norma never slept with Hank, he took Nadine to his father's cabin to go hunting for their honeymoon, where he planned to talk to her about getting a divorce. But in a hunting accident, Ed accidentally shot Nadine's eye and he decided to stay with her. Ed and Norma continue their relationship behind their partners' backs prior to the series events and throughout it. In the pilot, they plan to get divorces and be together, but after Nadine's suicide attempt and age regression and Hank's parole release, they decide not to go ahead as they do not want to hurt anybody. The significance of the setting of the narrative is also a convention within the soap opera genre. The town functions as a force linking characters with each other, not only as a positive basis for community, but also as a boundary which characters find it difficult to transgress. The opening title sequence before each episode shows the mountains covered in Douglas firs, the sawmill, and the waterfall view by the Great Northern Hotel, all while the spellbinding dream pop theme plays over it. This shows how isolated the town is, heightening the feeling of isolation for the characters in their current situation. The woods also feature in the establishing shots of every scene, making their omnipotent presence known. The heavy presence of the woods can also be analysed from a folkloric narrative perspective. As Kara Shimabukuro explains, the ultimate narrative enigma concerns the mystery of the woods and not the initial murder mystery established in the pilot. A folkloric reading of the woods gives it a more sinister and dangerous role, as the connotations of it are dark and full of threats. Multiple places of danger are in the woods, such as One-Eyed Jack's, the Black and White Lodges, and the train car where Laura and Ronette Polotsky were taken. The first season sees this darkness reference, but it only becomes more prominent as the series progresses, as the tension between the civilized good and the wild evil increases. This tension is lightly referred to in the opening sequence, with the contrast between the sawmill and the natural world, but is more prominently brought to the forefront by the conflict between Cooper and Wyndham Earle. However, while the woods are a place of danger, they are also seen as a place that provides knowledge, but only at a price. Major Briggs' involvement in the happenings of the town and the woods are an example of this, as while he can travel between the two worlds, bringing knowledge from one to the other, he sacrifices time to do so. Major Briggs' ability to be a part of both worlds and the consequences of it are an example to Cooper, as he must eventually enter the Black Lodge to face Bob and rescue Annie Blackburn. While the detective genre is the most prominent of the core plot, it has been influenced by aspects of the science fiction genre, primarily to the existence of Bob and other paranormal entities within the series. While they are present for the first season and used by Cooper in his investigations, they are not at the forefront of the narrative. Arguably, it is the scenes halfway through the second series where Leland is arrested and confesses to Laura's murder that the genre is brought more prominently into the narrative. This is also the point where the existence of Bob is confirmed to Harry and the other investigators, and Cooper's unconventional supernatural influences are legitimized. Bob is coded as a traditional horror film monster, and his links to the supernatural worlds of the Black and White Lodge in the science fiction genre within the series bridge the two genres together. The main function of the horror genre is to provide thrills and to scare people by connecting the various morbid residues in our psyche, and this function is often fulfilled through the medium of the monster. Bob holds many of the conventions of the monster from classic horror literature. On the surface, he fulfills the basic purpose of scaring the townsfolk of Twin Peaks. However, Bob is also a nightmare creature who speaks to our secret fears and invokes dread, disgust, fright, and similar feelings in us. For Laura's mother, Sarah, who Bob stalks and torments repeatedly after Laura's death, this nightmare creature creates a living nightmare for her by being responsible for her daughter's death, but also by stalking and tormenting her repeatedly. But Bob can also represent the fears of being controlled and forced to do things we've no control over, such as his possession of Leland and Cooper. The narrative structure of the series of Twin Peaks benefited hugely from the fragmented assembly of conventions and character types from a medley of genres, as it allowed for a richer narrative for the series overall. By focusing on the detective and soap opera genres, Lynch and Frost successfully brought together two genres that have traditionally been associated with distinctive male and female audiences. Characters, such as Agent Cooper, exhibit conventions from the majority of the genres at play, with his professionalism as a detective, the wacky personality of a soap opera character, and a strong belief in the supernatural around him, whereas characters such as Nadine and Audrey encapsulate the core qualities associated with the character type they are parodies of. By using easily recognizable conventions from the various genres, the pastiche aspect of the series is clear from the onset right through to the end as the tone becomes darker. The inclusion of the conventions from a wide array of genres to create the highly melodramatic presentation of character relationships in combination with the various interwoven plot strands allow for a series that engage viewers to be hooked initially to find out who killed Laura Palmer, but to stay to see if Ed and Norma would be together.